See, Newt Gingrich, of course, former Speaker of the House, one of the smartest people I've ever met, and it's been an honor to know him over the years. And we're able to snag him for a few minutes here on the Mike Gallagher Show. Mr. Speaker, well,
How are
here
you?
we go.
It's amazing, when you back out and look at the total election, not just the presidency,
Right.
the left threw an amazing amount of money to fail. $80 million to try to beat McConnell, they lost. $80 million to try to beat Lindsey Graham, they lost. About $60 million to try to beat Susan Collins. The amount of money that the left was generating was just astonishing.
Newt,
House,
how about Mike Bloomberg's $100 million in Florida? And Florida was one of the
that's
biggest nights for Republicans.
Yeah, Bloomberg actually recycles money to our advantage because, he puts it back into the economy and it doesn't have any effect politically. This is a guy who spent over $1 billion to win Guam. So
that's true. There is that.
Yeah.
There is that.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, let's talk a little bit about these 6 states. And everybody, I am very, optimistic. I'm enthusiastic about the big blue wave that didn't happen. Like you said, we were being told for months, it was coming. Yeah. Texas is going to turn blue. Didn't happen. So we got Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, North Carolina, Georgia. You've been at this a lot longer than I have. From my math, the president needs 4 of those 6 states.
Well, plus I would put Arizona back in play.
Right.
The numbers that are coming in Arizona are favorable to Trump. I certainly believe it's back in play, and that changes the equation some. In Nevada and Pennsylvania, you have to deal with the issue of stealing votes. The former Attorney General of Nevada, Adam Laxalt, has been warning for 2 months that the Democrats are going to try to steal the state. And I think that's got to be looked at very carefully. At the same time, Philadelphia is notorious for corruption. And, for example, they had precincts that would not allow poll watchers to come in. Well, those precincts should be just disbanded. Why would you count the votes of a machine that will not let you watch them while they're stealing? So I think you'll challenge there. I think Georgia and North Carolina in the end are for Trump. And I think under any reasonable circumstance, that the media would have called Georgia late last night for Trump. And now I think we have, I think we're in Michigan and Wisconsin. And it is very strange that the person who had the voice of a few minutes ago, Trump does very well. And then once we know about how many Trump votes there are, all of a sudden there are all these extra votes in Milwaukee, or there are all these extra votes in Detroit or Philadelphia. And I think, frankly, a lot of it's just plain old-fashioned theft. And it's the last stand of the national establishment trying to turn back Trump and the Trump revolution. And I think that's really the heart of what was going on last night.
But of course, as you say, the Republicans and I'm sure the Trump campaign anticipated this. I've been told that Trump has some of the greatest lawyers in the country that are on the ground, that are going to file suits if necessary. They're going to contest this if it looks like the Democrats are up to their old tricks.
Yeah, and I hope they will. But I also hope that they'll look at things like what I just said. I mean, some of it sometimes gets down to this legalistic nitpicking, and as a historian, that may not be the real story. If you have a precinct where the local machine has blocked anybody from poll watching, then if you invalidate every vote coming out of that precinct, you really change the whole equation in Philadelphia.
Right.
And that would be an example of I think what has to be done. The other, of course, is that they're going to have to go back and look at every single ballot that was mailed in or was absentee, because in a number of these states, the Democrats have been working for several years at a model of being able to steal the elections. Republicans focus on campaigns, Democrats focus on elections, and one of the reasons I think they weren't as bothered by Biden as we would have been is that he didn't matter that much. What mattered was, could they on election day turn out their vote or manufacture their vote? And that's literally what I think we're seeing happen. I remember a few years back we had a Senate race in Minnesota where the Republican had won very narrowly until all of a sudden, at the very end of the process, they found 300 ballots
I remember that.
in the trunk of a car, you know, and that's the sort of stuff you've got to be careful of, because they're used to stealing, and it's part of their modus operandi.
Let's end on an optimistic note about the shape and the substance of today's Republican Party after 4 years of President Donald Trump. There were a lot of Hispanic votes last night that blew Democrats away. A lot of women victories, women with victories around the country. A lot of African American votes. I've heard all my life about the big tent for the Republican Party. It finally seems like it's actually happening. It's not just lip service.
No, that's right. I think part of the achievement of Trump has been to attract people who historically would not have thought they were Republican. And Kevin McCarthy went out of his way to try to recruit African Americans, Latinos, and women candidates, and it paid off. We're having a whole new generation of exciting young people join the Congress in a way that I think is very, very exciting.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate so much you spending a few minutes with us. We're going to see what happens. We're holding on for dear life. Fingers crossed, prayers up, and keep fighting the good fight. Thank you. Newt Gingrich joining us here on the Mike Gallagher Show.